So, we're not singing this on our own. We hope you all will sing it with us. This isn't church. This isn't church, and I'm going to prove it right now because I just want you to all say after me. I mean, really, I'm so happy you're all here. We feel all your love and support. But the truth is, this fucking sucks. Now, could you just say with me, this fucking sucks? One more time. This fucking sucks. Well, it just feels better to say that. It's a goddamn truth. That's what it is. So, I have this long thing. Sorry, but you're going to have to sit through it. We are here today to celebrate Keaton's beautiful, bright, short life. He had an amazing life to celebrate. Some of you have been saying it on social media. He gave more love in his 25 years than many do in a lifetime. You couldn't be sad when Keaton was in the room. To meet Keaton for the first time was to fall in love with him. I know I fell in love with him the first time I met him. When he was born, he came out like this. So he protected his face. So he was gorgeous from the moment he was born. And the nurse gave him a shot, and he said, "This is a very brave boy." I gave him his shot, and he didn't cry. Keaton had a bright, bright light, and he shone it on everyone around him. My sister Ann says Keaton was like a shooting star. He blazed across the earth with such a brilliant light. He was full of unbounding love, a zest for life, a disregard for ordinary rules, as we know. He had this ability to feel what others felt. It started really young. He used to watch this little movie when he was about 3. It was called Corduroy. It was about a little stuffed bear. You guys know that movie? Corduroy, and Corduroy loses his button and he gets really sad. And every single time, Corduroy would get sad, Keaton would run to me and say, "Corduroy lost his button." As he grew up, that ability to feel what others felt created this kindness in him. 2 girls from Garrison Middle School wrote to me and said, "Keaton was always kind to me when others weren't. Keaton always talked to me when others didn't." We'd order a meal in a restaurant and it might be wrong or taste terrible, and I would say, "Honey, just send it back." And he'd say, No, I don't want to hurt the waiter's feelings." You know that one too, yeah. He also saw auras when he was little. I asked him one day because his father sees auras. Joel sees auras, and I said, "Keaton, do you see light or colors around people?" And he said, "You mean that light that looks like oil in puddles?" And I said, "Yeah, that light." And now, we live on a dirt driveway, so I don't even know where he saw oil in puddles. I don't have to tell you all that Keaton was no angel. When he was 3, when he was 3 and he first went to Miss Kathy's preschool, he came out one day, he was all smiles, and he said, "Miss Kathy asked us to wind up, but I didn't wind up, because I don't follow anybody's rules." and there was part of me that was like, "Oh shit, we're in trouble." And the other part of me was like, "Yes, that's my boy." Yep, Keaton was no angel. He was always late. Always late. But I was thinking about that, and I think that he was so in the present moment. He just loved being wherever he was. And so then he didn't want to move. And then he'd go to the next place, and he just loved being there too. He just always loved where he was. Right now, I feel, as some of you might, like I'm on a roiling sea of emotions. We are all riding the waves with Keaton right now. We're riding the waves of grief from not having enough of his bright light. There was just never enough of Keaton to go around. With deep love comes deep grief. It's just part of the package. Part of the adventure of this life we choose on earth. So we just hop on those waves of grief and we ride them, feel them, and then we let them pass. We are also riding the waves of joy, the joy of knowing this bright soul of a young man who lit up our hearts and lit up the planet. He lived the way he wanted right up until the day he died. He was having a great day that day and texted me a selfie of himself, it's up here somewhere, in his wetsuit, with a big thumbs up, grin in his big grin, surfing in Northern California with Nick and Joe. Now, I didn't read the article written about the accident because Nick, who was there, says it was not entirely true. Keaton and his friends walked into waves that were only 3 to 4 feet high. I saw the waves myself. They're waves that this old lady would have surfed. So, they were not risking their lives. They had a plan. They were going to stay close to shore. But the sea had another plan. Now, whether it was the earthquake in Alaska, which had happened 14 hours ago, or before that, or some other freak thing, the ocean changed very quickly and a riptide developed. It was no one's fault. And there was no way they could have known about it. It was just a magnificent and fickle sea taking one of our boys with us. That's it. End of story. There were incredibly brave rescue teams, and thank God Joe called for help, and a man named Ian Miller saved Nick, or we'd be mourning 2 lives here. When we went out to that beach in California, the water was so beautiful. There was a man surfing. We saw in the distance 2 whales shooting up their spouts. The morning that we left, I was feeling so grateful for the beauty of the place and the glitter of sunlight on the breaking waves, and even grateful for Keaton's short but full life. And we all looked up and saw a huge rainbow across the sky. And then we saw a double rainbow. There was no rain. There was no reason. There was just a rainbow. It was brilliant with every color, vivid and bright. And we all saw it, and we knew it was a sign. We may be grieving on this plane, but Keaton is okay where he is now. He is okay. And this is the important thing. We will be okay one day too. So, we gather here today to celebrate his full-out, well-lived, well-loved life. There's so much love in this room. I am so overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support, and for Joel, for me, for the families, for Keaton. We're not here to mourn his death. Keaton fucking hated funerals. He'd just been to too many of them. It does give me some solace to think that he has on the other side his close, close friends, just from his Garrison gang. He might be out there shredding it on a skateboard with Sam, longboarding with Anthony, playing music with Forrest, or joking around and hitting the slopes with Casey right now. And that's just the short list. I'm sure that our sensitive Keaton is heartbroken to know that his death is causing so much pain to those around him. To all of Keaton's friends who have lost yet another buddy today, I'm so sorry we have to be here again at this place. But we all have a choice now. Every minute of every day, we have this choice. Do we focus on the pain of losing him? Or do we focus on the joy of having him with us for as long as we did? Every morning, we wake up with this choice. Do we focus on the gratitude, on the joy, or do we focus on the pain? I have 2 very strong role models for overcoming unfathomable loss. My parents lost 3 children. My 2 sisters, 25 and 30, have a disease very much like MS or ALS, and a 3-day-old brother that I never met. But I watched them grieve, get through, and go on to live extraordinary lives. I know it is possible. Although right now, it just doesn't seem like it. I am so grateful to have been Keaton's mother. He was such a fucking great kid. I'm so grateful for the love he showered on me and on his dad, Joel, who loved him so much and so well. And I'm so grateful for the way he made me laugh and the way he made me worry. I'm grateful for little things like one of his last texts he sent me, "Happy Thanksgiving, Mama. I am so beyond grateful for your wonderful light that lights up my life as well as countless others. I love you so much and miss you a whole lot, too." I'm grateful for his adventurous spirit and for being my buddy in so many crazy adventures. We went cliff jumping, boogie boarding, skiing, scuba diving, jumping out of airplanes. I'm grateful for being able to watch him make his way in the world and never really truly knowing or understanding the profound effect that he had on people. I'm grateful for that smile that lit up every corner of every room he flashed it in. Right now, we may be feeling everything. We might be feeling rage, anger, grief, the gambit. But my hope for myself and for you all is to each day get a little bit better at choosing the joy. In fact, we can all keep a joy bank. We can keep a stash of memories of how Keaton made us laugh or the memories you shared. We can ask ourselves, what would Keaton do? He wouldn't be sitting here, smoke it or smoke a spliff outside, right? would Keaton do? What would Keaton want? I can assure you, Keaton, right even now, wherever he is, in whatever form he is in, whatever plane he is in, wherever he exists in this world right now, because I do believe he exists somewhere, I can assure you that he wants us to feel joy and live our lives to the fullest we can possibly live them. And now I have a request for you. I mentioned that Keaton is like a shooting star. He flashed through our lives and was just gone too quickly. Now, when I was growing up, we always made wishes when we saw shooting stars. So now every time you see a shooting star in the night sky, I'd like you to say, there goes Keaton. And I want you to make the most fucking gnarliest, awesome wish that you can make for your life. And I want you, when you have children, to teach your children when they see a shooting star in the night sky, there goes Keaton. They won't even know what the fuck you mean. But you'll say, there goes Keaton, make a wish. And then when you have grandchildren, teach your grandchildren, there goes Keaton, make a wish. And just know that there's a powerful help for all those wishes from a very strong spirit on the other side. Up, you guys. Thank you. Oh, I need a note. I need a note. I think it's a C. And I leave Linda. I was going to sing this alone, but I need some help on this. This is a song that we sing in the Threshold Choir, and it's one other one.
Nothing can shake my love. 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 Nothing can shake my love.
Sing it with us if you can. Please sing it with us.
Nothing can shake my love. Nothing can shake my love. Nothing can shake my love. Nothing can shake my
Julie? Keaton's dad.
You all know me, so you know I got 1,000 stories, but I'll only tell one. He was in kindergarten, in the car seat, the driveway in Garrison, pulled up, got out, took 37 seconds to get the mail, and I came back and he was in his car seat just crying his heart out, And I said, "What's wrong? What happened? Are you okay?" And he said, "I like it like this. I don't want to grow up." And I never ever told him, "Don't cry" or "Stop crying." I just said, there. And I thought about it and said, well, you know, when we go to the fair, you know those wooden guys with their hands, you have to be this tall to ride the rides. Don't you want to ride the rides? He said, "Yes." And he stopped crying. He's been riding the rides since then. Now I have a poem that I've said or sent way too many times. I ought to know it by heart, but I found a text yesterday from Keaton saying, "Oh yeah, that's amazing." So I'm going to read that poem. Hopefully not in a high, squeaky voice. It's by W.S. It's by a guy named Van Dyke. "I'm standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts to the blue ocean. She's an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky mingle to come together. Then someone at my side says, 'There, she's gone.' Gone where? Gone from my sight, that's all. She's just as large in mast, hull, and spar as she was when she left my side. And she's just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not her. And just at the moment when someone says, 'There, she is gone,' there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, 'Here she comes.'" Now, he went out to L.A. and worried about stuff. I used to manage the Improv, so I set him up with Thanksgiving dinner with some of the comic friends of mine. And he went out there and just spent 4 hours with a bunch of basically adult nitwits. Schmoozing and just fitting in. And one of the people who'd spent maybe 40 minutes at a Hollywood party with 30, 40 people heard about Keaton's death and wrote a letter not even to me or to Kat, but to Mike, my friend who hosted the party, my friend Mary, who's going to read just an email that if I can't have him, the memories of him affecting people like this is almost as good. Mary Mikalakis.
Obviously, Keaton was a total stranger to me in one sense, but in another utterly unexplainable sense, he was someone very precious. As you read this, I hope it conveys why. But this is also why it has taken so long to finish and send. I hope Joel knows how grateful I am that he created Keaton. Mike, Thanksgiving was a wonderful holiday thanks to you and Denise. But the guests are always what makes a party, as we all know. I've had a very unusual and full life, filled with world travel and thousands of encounters. As the evening progressed, Keaton continued to capture my curiosity. There was something unique about him. Yes, he is one of those smiles, the kind you return to in a crowd for that shot of rejuvenating spirit when you feel your social graces are flagging. But his face had this continual glow of light sifting from it. Believe me, I know how stupid and sappy that sounds, but is the best description of that odd, distracting phenomenon that initially drew my curiosity. So I decided to talk to the kid. His light just grew brighter with our conversation. He talked about his East LA neighborhood, one most white kids like himself would avoid, but he had actively embraced. He told me how the locals had been guarded and suspicious of the lanky, very white kid from the East Coast. That magnetic smile of his didn't wane despite the tinge of pain and frustration in his voice. The angst he expressed hadn't sprung from being denied, but from acknowledging the universality of the pain of racism. How sad it was that man's fears drove us to be instinctively suspicious of other. In the telling of this, Keaton gave no indication that he ever considered moving. Quite the contrary. His smile remained, and the sparkle in his eyes actually brightened as he continued. I knew I had to find a way to become part of the community, so I got to know my neighbors. It was easy for me to imagine his lovely smile and warm eyes winning over the neighbors. As I stood listening to him, I realized I was experiencing exactly what his neighbors had, this slow, unfolding revelation that Keaton actually was this kind and wonderful. It wasn't an act. Keaton continued, that smile chasing every word like a musical score, telegraphing the happy ending I couldn't wait to hear. I asked my neighbors where their favorite place was to eat. Food is everything. He gave an extra grin at this as he tossed an acknowledging nod back at the Thanksgiving table. If you go where they all go to eat, you get to know them. I praised his insight and told him that he had in fact found the golden key to humanity. Briefly explaining my parents were archaeologists, ethnologists, a group that knew eating with the locals was critical to building a bond with new cultures. Keaton's smile broadened knowingly. He continued. It was a food truck. You're kidding, I said, shocked. Nope, the locals eat there all the time. It's all sorts of local favorites from Mexico. The food is really good. I ended up going all the time, sometimes with a roommate or friends. At first, I think they were a little uncomfortable seeing this white guy and his roommate as regulars. I'd ask the moms about the food, and they'd explain, then they'd have me try different things. It didn't take long before people started coming up and talking. Pretty soon, it felt like I was just another local. I knew his community had embraced Keaton as one of their own. No doubt he now had several Latina moms fussing and worrying he was way too skinny. Unfamiliar with his brand of DNA. During the entirety of our conversation, it was never about him. His story hadn't focused on his ability to fit in. Instead, his perspective was from gratitude to the community for its willingness to accept him. This is what made Keaton precious to me. I don't think he realized that most people can't see the world through another person's eyes, feel what they feel. But Keaton seemed to think everyone was like this. He saw nothing unique in his ability to immediately put people at ease. He was just hardwired to think of others. Finding that in a young person is rare. Finding that in LA made him a frickin' unicorn. From my experience, he didn't have a boastful bone in his body. Unlike so many of his age, he had zero interest in inflicting his values or judgments on others. He was humble, compassionate, and a truly beautiful human at his core. This was why I gave him my information and asked him to keep in touch. He talked about PA work and entertainment, but I felt his true path would take him in quite a different direction. Oddly, I felt he was destined for things far more significant than the rat race. In fact, I felt compelled to find out where his true path would lead. Only now as I write this do I realize the significance of his casual gesture, the nod toward the Thanksgiving table, and his choice in story to share with me. Keaton was referencing not just our feast, but the first Thanksgiving of historic lore, the one that showed goodwill between European and Indian trying to find common ground. Out of all the stories he could share with a total stranger on this Thanksgiving day, Keaton had decided to tell me his personal Thanksgiving story. Realizing this in the moment only solidifies everything I believe and write here about Keaton. After we had said our goodbyes, I watched as his warm smile turned towards others, thanking them for the time together. In that moment, I thought, I wonder when he will realize his true path is so very different from the one he is thinking. That kid is like a young Buddha walking this earth in search of gathering experiences and wisdom for some higher purpose. I am grateful that Keaton's journey included a brief stop with me. My memory is so vivid of him. I realize a smile always appears when I replay our encounter. It is a wonderful, deep, and lasting impression. There is no doubt that Keaton impacted many others the way he impacted me. I'll never forget him. In gratitude and love, made.
Thank you, Mary. And now I'd like to bring up Keaton's girlfriend, Paige Tendler. Speak from her heart.
So before I read this, there's just something that I would like to share with all of you. Whenever I was panicking or nervous about something or really upset, he would come over and sit with me, and he would just, like, put his hand over my heart, and he would say, close your eyes, and he would just say, just breathe, everything's going to be okay. And he would just keep telling me, everything's going to be okay, just keep breathing. And that's something that we can all do for each other and for ourselves. And I know if he was here right now, he would be reaching out to every single person, telling us, just breathe, so yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. There isn't really a word great enough to capture who Keaton was or what he brought into our lives. The day that I met him, my whole world lit up, and from that moment on, I knew that there wasn't anything that I wanted from a life without him. He is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and having the opportunity to love him was the greatest gift I have ever received. I will carry that love with me forever, knowing that I am better because of it. Last week, at Kat's house, actually, I picked up a book, and when I opened it to the first page, I read this quote: "We can let the circumstances of our lives harden us so that we become increasingly resentful and afraid, or we can let them soften us and make us kinder and more open to what scares us. We always have this choice." Keat would want us all to find success and love and happiness. He would want us all to make the differences within our power, to say yes, to walk through the doors that open. He would tell us to be bold and lean into everything that life has to offer. If there's one thing that I know for absolutely certain, it is that Keaton would want us to grow from this, as impossible as it may feel in these moments. He was so skilled at so many things, but his true gift was with people, making them feel safe, loved, and accepted. And although he can't be here with us anymore, I know he will continue to do what he always did: take care of us, the people he loves. His light will always be around us, even when we can't always feel it, healing us when our hearts feel broken, brightening the paths that feel dark, and embracing us when we come out on the other side of something that scares us.
Thank you, Paige. Now I'd like to bring up one of Keaton's cousins from St. Louis that he loved very much, and she loved very much too, Keaton, Jane Manwaring. Come on up, Jane.
Hi, like he said, my name's Jane, and I wrote this for my big cousin. If I can get through it, we'll see. Keaton's attitude was the perfect combination of not taking life too seriously while caring deeply about the people he loves and the things that matter most. He loved his family, his friends, his girlfriend. He loved acquaintances. He loved strangers. He had the unique talent of making everyone around him feel important, and that's because he genuinely cared about everyone. To be the recipient of Keaton's sunshine was to feel like the most important person in the world. His gentle soul and free spirit were intoxicating to be around. Those who knew Keaton loved him, and those who loved Keaton loved him deeply. I should know I'm one of them. I've spent my whole life loving Keaton, and still that doesn't feel like enough time. Witnessing someone meet Keaton for the first time was unlike anything I've ever seen. That charm was completely undeniable. I was always so proud to introduce my big cousin to my friends. They obviously fell in love with him immediately. He had that effect on everyone. Over the past few days, Keaton's social media has been flooded with tributes and memories of his life. Over and over again, I see the same beautiful messages about his big heart and of the impact he had on so many. Keaton was the same person no matter who was around, and that's not something that can be said about many people. His ability to be genuine and authentic was unmatched. If Keaton were a color, he would be gold. Bright, shiny, warm, the best and most beautiful of them all. Saying goodbye to Keaton is heartbreaking, but he'll live on in us in innumerable ways. A particularly gorgeous day, a gigantic, goofy smile, the sound of a skateboard, the warmth of the sun, a cold beer, a sunset in Boca Grande, the freedom and happiness of a little kid. We're all broken at the thought of never seeing Keaton smile, hearing his sweet laugh, or feeling his warm hugs again. But how lucky we are to have had him for the short time that we did.
Now I'd like to bring up another, thank you, Jane, bring up another well-loved cousin from St. Louis, Michael Sullivan.
I feel like I'm gonna knock something over here. Okay, good.
You knocked over a kazoo.
Yeah. What do you do, Kazoo? It's not written down. My name is Mike Sullivan. I'm one of Keaton's cousins. Keaton was actually my only cousin. And for those who do not know me, I have two very small children. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. Before I had kids, I always had this set expectation of what I wanted from them and what I wanted them to be. I guess, for instance, when I had a son, I played football for most of my life, so I really wanted a 6'6", 275-pound kid I could throw into the NFL. So I have a little girl. My expectation was that she will tear down some gender wall out there, be a world-renowned scientist or an engineer or something like that. But after having the kids and knowing them for a couple years, things simplify a little bit. And I'm talking about that because Thanksgiving, my wife and I had a conversation, and Thanksgiving was usually an opportunity where we had the chance to see Keaton. He would come to St. Louis, and Thanksgiving was always perfect. So I'd catch up with Keaton on all the cool stuff he was up to. I'd catch him up on the boring stuff that I was up to. But it was fun. We cracked jokes, and everyone said it. Like, if Keaton is there, it's a much more fun time than when he's not. So it was always something to look forward to. He didn't come to St. Louis this year, but it was actually the day after my wife and I were talking, and as I'm sure is with a lot of you guys, Thanksgiving's a time to reflect, and you reflect on what's important to you, what means what, where do actual things that matter stand in life. And one of the things we were talking about were our kids and what matters and what we want out of our children. And the two things that we landed on really simply were kindness and happiness. So we wanted our kids to be kind, and we wanted them to grow up to be happy. And after that, it doesn't fucking matter. It just doesn't. And the reason I'm bringing that up in that story is because, as you guys have heard, and every single person who's gone up here, and I'm going to echo the same exact sentiment, is that Keaton was the epitome of those two things, kindness and happiness. And everyone's talked about it. I just think if every parent and every person could be as kind and happy as he was, how nice and beautiful this world would be. Keaton had the ability to walk into a room, make friends with anyone there. There's not an unkind, unhappy, unlikable bone in his body. He radiates joy. I'm thinking back to my wedding, and he's just over there hanging out with my friends who are 10 years older than him. Like he had known him for years. He met him at the rehearsal dinner. True story, like 2 months ago, I had my friend TJ just recently asked me about how Keaton was doing. I was like, he's good, yeah. It's just really funny. I'm thinking back to the last Thanksgiving that he was in town, he was interacting with my little daughter, Molly, and he was saying, oh, she's so cute, and she's so cute. It's just such a funny thing to hear a 22-year-old male say about a tiny little girl. And my daughter is really cute. But it's funny to hear, but that was Keaton just, that's how he felt, so he'd say it, which, I mean, you gotta love that. When you lose somebody like that, it's obviously so hard. It's people who put that kind of positive energy in the world and leave too quickly. It does leave a hole, just like Joel was talking about and Kat, you talked about too. And everyone here, we're gonna feel that to some degree. For me, who only got to see Keaton a couple times a year, to you guys who saw him daily and got that light every single day. Keaton will forever provide me the ability to think back of who he was, what he was about, and the joy and the happiness that he put into this world. Obviously this is tough, but I'm comforted knowing that his ability to do that and to put that into the world and reach so many different people. I mean, this is a standing room only funeral.
Not a funeral.
Sorry, not a fucking funeral. Yeah, thank you, sorry. But it's insane. I think it says so much. And I guess the last thing I wanted to say is just thank you to Kat and Joel, who inspired him to follow his heart, helped foster his creativity, and showed him there was never a cap on compassion, love, or happiness, and built somebody who could live their life that way. So thank you guys for that. And then, I have 2 more thank yous, that's it. And then to his friends, I mean, I haven't gotten a chance to get to know you guys all, but his friends and the rest of the family, everyone has had such a big part in making him who he was, and you can feel it, so thank you guys for that. And then the last is just thank you to Keaton for allowing me to feel that with me for the rest of my life. My kids will grow up to be happy and kind, and that will be a part of him, and they will also call shooting stars Keatons.